What happens after you submit a Google Ads appeal? Well, first of all, to submit an appeal, you're filling out a form and your Google Ads account and submitting information to Google. And you click that button and then it goes off into the ether and you have no idea what's going on, right? Well, that's why I'm making this video. So what happens is after you submit that appeal, that goes into Google's system. And what happens exactly may depend upon whether this is your first appeal or a subsequent appeal. But let's assume it's your first appeal first. So it's your first appeal. Often the first appeal, or maybe even the first couple of appeals, may go through automation. They may not even get to a person at all to review. They may go through automation, and that automation may say, okay, yep, it looks like the problem is fixed, or this makes sense, let's reinstate the account. Or, as often happens, it does not see that, and it rejects your appeal, and you are still suspended. Now, there's no kind of necessarily magic rule here. There are, I think, times where an appeal does get to a human more quickly, times where it doesn't. But first of all, you had the automation that takes place. Then if you are getting to the place where you've submitted multiple appeals, you're probably going to get in front of a human at some point. Now, when I say get in front of a human, I'm not saying that someone is sitting down and saying, all right, I'm going to spend a couple hours looking at this situation and really applying a lot of logic and research and common sense to decide whether or not I should accept this appeal. No, Google has an incredible volume of suspensions and appeals that they're working through. And so you don't have a lot of time. They're very quickly making decisions and looking and seeing, oh, is the problem that was flagged fixed or not? Is this account good to go or not? And then moving on. And this is one of the reasons why you need to craft appeals very well, very effectively, so that it's incredibly easy for either automation or a human to read it and understand what's going on and very quickly make a decision. And then again, hopefully that manual review results in the suspension being overturned. But if it doesn't, it gets kicked back to you. Your options are really continuing to try and find anything that could be a problem, fixing it, and then continuing to submit appeals with Google. And so where we see success, sometimes we see it on the first appeal, sometimes we see it after multiple. It really depends on the situation. But key ingredients to success in fixing suspensions is attention to detail, trying to fix everything possible. Obviously, knowing what you're looking for and what matters and what doesn't matter, because there's a lot of information out there online about what you should do to fix a suspension. Some of it's good, some of it's actually counterproductive, and much of it's really just nuanced. It depends upon your situation. So sometimes this best practice is the correct thing to do for this company, but the absolute worst thing to do for that company, or just a waste of time and a waste of resources. And so we bring to the table figuring those things out because of our pattern recognition of working with thousands of advertisers and fixing suspensions. And so I said, key ingredient, you have attention to detail, you have knowing what to look for, and you have persistence. Persistence with going back to Google, persistence with, at times, there's ways that we can request a manual review. So let's say appeals have been declined. There's some things that we can try and push on in the back end with our relationship with Google to try and say, hey, please, really, can you take a look at this? And it doesn't mean that there's a magic button that we can tell someone at Google to click, but sometimes we see those manual review requests be really helpful, or escalations, in ultimately fixing an issue that maybe is kind of stuck within Google's system, and you've fixed it, but you've got to jump that hurdle where Google system is saying no, but you've got to get it in front of the right person to say yes. So those are a lot of the things that happen after you submit an appeal with Google. And if you need help submitting an appeal, or you've already gone through the process and you're not, you're hitting a brick wall and you need help, please reach out, StubGroup.com, click the link in the description below, and we would be happy to help get you back online with Google.